We are now streaming. Have a good meeting.
Thank you, Francia. Good morning, everybody. So good to see you all again. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving. I know it's a busy time of year, so today we have a somewhat shorter agenda compared to last time, but we will just jump right in. But before we do, let's do a quick roll call of everybody on the call. And I'll just start kind of from the left-hand corner and go around that way. So looks like Dee, you are up first.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dee Williams. I am a city appointed representative and I am a voting member.
Thank you. Frank, you are up next.
Good morning. I'm Frank McGowan, City of Asheville staff and interim assistant director for the CED department, and I am a voting member.
Perfect. Thank you. Karen?
I'm Karen Omansky, and I'm with Self Help, and I'm a non-voting member.
Thank you. Kelly?
Good morning. I'm Kelly Foster, Mountain BizWorks, non-voting member.
Thank you. Matt?
Good morning. Matt Raker, Mountain BizWorks, non-voting.
Awesome. Great to have you join us. Nikki?
Good morning, Nikki Reed, Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Asheville, and I'm a voting member.
Perfect. Rachel?
Hi, everybody. Rachel Nygaard here with Buncombe County Government. On staff with Buncombe County as Strategic Partnerships Director, and I am voting.
Yay. Rachel is also our awesome secretary. Let's see. Tara?
Good morning, Tara Brown. I'm with Self Help and I am not a voting member.
Thank you. Tim?
Good morning, Tim Love, Buncombe County, voting member.
Awesome. Yasleen, I believe you are the last one before I go.
Good morning, Yasmin Gonzalez, Mountain BizWorks, non-voting.
Thank you. And I am Maui Vang. I am a county appointee, voting member, and the chair of MCCF. So good to have you all. So looking forward to this hopefully short and sweeter meeting. So we'll jump into our agenda items. Hopefully everybody received them and had a chance to look over beforehand. And so first thing on our agenda is just approval from last meeting's minutes from November 4th. So if anybody has any questions or comments from that, otherwise we can just take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Frank. Do I have a second? Dee? All right. I think I saw Dee's hand go up. So Dee seconds the motion. So let's see. Okay. So let's take a quick vote. All in favor, raise your hand. All right. Thank you. Rachel, did you get a good count?
It looks like the motion carries. Are there any opposed?
Any opposed?
Got it.
Perfect. Easy peasy. Thank you, everybody. So we'll move on to a quick update from Nikki on the rules and procedures document and perhaps any input or guidance that you've received from legal department.
Great, thank you. So last meeting and in our previous meetings, our group has been talking about wanting to ensure that our guiding documents for this committee are up to date and reflect our recent additional dollars that have been made available for the Mountain Community Capital Fund. And so I am working through our city legal department to assist in some of those changes. We had looked at some proposed changes from this group, and now we're at the point to involve our legal team. And so primarily, I think for me, it's taken on a three-way approach. And so namely, that is to work within the document that we've been looking at together, also ensuring that our legal team can provide insight into this committee as to our role of governance role. And so that's something that we're also speaking about. And then I know that with the ARPA funds that both the city and the county are dedicating towards NCCF, there's also that component as well. And so I had a chance to speak with Janice just to inquire where she is on the project. And I don't have anything back from her yet in terms of something for this group to review. I think what she had asked is if we could inform a deadline and maybe look at some dates that we would want some deliveries or deliverables by a certain date. That way that can really help her prioritize this work and ensure that we have what we need before we start making further progress on the loans. I think that would be helpful. And then I also think that we may want to designate perhaps in a future agenda and just have an agenda item where we ask legal to help inform the committee on roles and responsibilities. That way we can work towards that date as well to let legal prepare for providing some insight and allowing that discussion for the committee to really understand our role as it relates to governance of NCCF. So I think if we can perhaps look at some dates that I can share back with legal, then that will help us also to manage that workflow. So that was my update from Janice, and I would like to hear feedback from the group on those two items. So one, a deadline that we can impose for proposed changes for the document, and then second, a proposed date that we would ask legal to share and visit with this committee and share a role. So Dee, I see your hand raised, so go ahead. I think you are on mute. Dee, happens to all of us.
Some technical difficulty. I do apologize. For the benefit of the motoring public and some of us, could you, I guess, note who Janice is? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Janice Ashley is a senior attorney in our attorney's office here at the city of Asheville. She's worked with the city for a number of years. One of the departments in her portfolio is the Community and Economic Development Department. And so she is our liaison to our legal office. And so we've tapped her, we've invited her to serve in this role to help us through some of the changes that we were making to our documents, just because I always appreciate legal insight. I will note of record that there likely will be subsequent steps. I think asking Janice to take the first draft, but I also want to acknowledge that the county's attorney will be involved in this process, as well as if we pursue any changes that would impact the duties and services agreement with our local lenders. Of course, they would have the legal responsibility to engage their own team to review those changes. But thank you, Dee, for allowing me to clarify.
thank you.
Thank you, Nikki, for that update and the succinct to, I guess, action items or homework items for us. If anyone else has any questions or thoughts, I was just wanting to also ask a quick clarifying question. So the deadline that Janice was wanting from us is essentially when they should be ready, complete with their viewing or reviewing of our changes?
I think so. And perhaps one suggestion is, being that our January meeting is going to come on the heels of the holidays, I would suggest that perhaps we look at February for a potential agenda item where we would ask for legal to provide some information about the duties of the MCCF committee. And one thing came to mind. I will say too that Janice was helpful. She's been here since the inception of Mountain Community Capital Fund as well. So that's a really helpful through line, because I myself was not here when it started. I was in the department, but not in this particular role. So I appreciate those who have had who've been here since the inception of the committee and also of the fund. So I would offer, like, if we want to say February would be the time that we would invite legal to share their thoughts on the role of the committee and just to solidify our mutual understanding of our role as the committee, and then open to hearing suggestions on the next steps for our other documents, if we need to have that also done by February, or if there's any other timeliness that we need to be aware of for that. But that would just be a suggestion that perhaps we could start with.
I think that's a great, so, from a timeline perspective, I can't imagine anybody, having to slave over these documents over the holidays. Another quick question is, I think last time Carl and I, we deliberated briefly on the trigger points, kind of came back to the group with our conclusion, which was essentially, we're not proposing to change the trigger points at the moment, but that's kind of what led into the conversation about our broader role and essentially how much legal power or authority we have. So it sounds like, as far as actual changes or revisions to the document, I know we've gone through multiple rounds of discussing and viewing it on this call. If that doesn't require much more input from us, then is that something that we could move up even to January? Or do you think it could be a good to kind of lump it together for February? I just hate for things to keep dragging on. And
I hear you. And that's why I think having a deadline would help us. I would say, given that it's early December, I would say if we want to name February with our deadline, and namely, so what that would mean is that, because I want to reflect on our past conversations as well, because I know from our group, there's a need to have documents in advance so that we make sure that the committee is fully informed in advance. And so likely what that would mean is that we would step that back. So a mid-January deadline would be for the distribution of documents for the team to review, so that when we get to our February meeting, we could have a good discussion around that. So if that seems like a reasonable timeline, then that's what I can report back to legal. So I'll just put that out there. I think we don't necessarily need to take formal action. It's probably that we just need nods, I would say. I'll look to Rachel as our keeper of things. But for me, I think that seems like something that we can put into action.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So just to recap, middle of January for legal to finish their edits or proposals to the documents, get that back to the committee to review ahead of our February meeting, but also invite Janice to our February meeting to comment on, from her perspective, what our role is as committee members. So we'll kind of bundle that up into the February meeting. Any additional thoughts or questions or suggestions on this topic?
This is Matt. I think that timeline works, and kind of related to this is, what BizWorks is looking to also get the kind of agreement in place for the transferring, the funds, the MCCF related funds, in our own BizWorks matching funds that we're committing through this. I know those original construction documents of this is a little unclear about how additional funders get added, and so I think this that timeline will also work really well for finalizing those next steps, so we can get those moving as well.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, thank you, Matt, for that comment, and it sounds like that's a good timeline for all. So, Nikki, I take it you'll relay that back to Janice and help her to know she can sleep well over the holidays. All right. Well, thank you so much for that update. It's very helpful. So we can move on to the next part of old business on our agenda, which is essentially follow-up comments, any potential discussion on some questions with Mountain BizWorks, are one of our main lending partners. And this is, to provide some context, flows from the quarterly update that Yasleen put together for us last time. And I think there were just some numbers in there that we just wanted some further clarification on. And then also the more technical ins and outs of how the ARPA funds will actually move to MCCF. So we'll open up the floor to Yasleen and or Matt to comment on those items.
Jocelyn, do you want to start with, and then I'm happy to fill in.
Sure. I'm a little under the weather today, so but I'll do my best. So I can certainly share the updated numbers that we created on the report. Excuse me. I will also share, I believe the quarter is up. So if everyone is okay with it, I can share the updated report as of towards the middle of the month. The quarterly report for the end of the year. I can certainly do that as well and send that out to the committee today. So I know we had on the outstanding balance as far as how much was outstanding on the guarantee portion. So I went in there and added the 450, the original amount of MCCF. And so I can quickly share my screen. 1 second. Can everybody see that okay?
Looks good.
Okay. All right. So you've got the outstanding loan balance is 1.4. The total came out to be 3 million, 0.5 essentially. And total dollars lent over the life of the fund, 1.5. So I did go ahead and adjust the percentage here to be off the percentage of the outstanding guarantee amount, not the outstanding principal amount. And I think really that was the biggest question there, if I'm correct, Howie?
Yes, yeah, I'm taking a quick look. I think you mentioned you added the original 500,000-ish thousand to one of the numbers, because I think that was one of the other questions was perhaps that balance was missing.
I'll chime in. This is Rachel. I've got the minutes open from last time, which was helpful for me to go back and see what did we say what were the next steps. So just for other people's reference, Yasleen, thank you for making those updates. It looks like you had planned to go in and confirm the maximum loan amount, maximum guarantee amount, and percentage of loans utilized. It looks like at a glance, those are the pieces you just covered. Does that sound right?
Yes.
And then whenever Matt is ready to share, the two pieces we're hoping for from you are the American Rescue Plan Act mechanism and connection to Catalyst Fund.
Correct. Yep.
I think this looks good, Yasleen. If it would be possible to get a copy at some point, just for the, I would like to personally just do a quick review of it.
Sure, I can send this out.
Yeah. Tim?
Yasleen, thank you, and hope that you feel better soon. Might be a good opportunity since we've got some new faces on the call. Hunter, welcome. To just talk about how the guarantee relates to the loan balance and kind of what that means for total funds, things like that. So I'm glad to do that, or if someone else would like to, Maui, Matt, anybody, over.
Sure. I can take that, Tim. So through Mountain Community Capital Fund, the fund will provide a loan guarantee of 85%, up to a maximum guarantee of $70,000 for any one loan. So if the loan amount is roughly 80,000 or below, it'll be at the full kind of 85% guarantee amount. And then, the higher it goes, the guarantee, it's still, will cover up to the 70,000 max guarantee, but then the percentage, will go down for the larger loans. So you can see on the numbers there, we've got about 600,000 currently in guarantee, which is all of the kind of initial pilot funds plus first progress on the new Dogwood Health Trust funds in there as well. And then going into the next 2 years, we've got significant capacity now through the new commitments of the ARPA funds via Mountain BizWorks to really continue to make this transformational facility in our community going forward. So so a lot of capacity there. Both, and we'll get to this in just a minute. Both the Buncombe County and the City of Asheville ones have their couple more steps before we can actually start fully utilizing those. But those are coming soon, and are so we'll be fully available here shortly.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Tim, for that suggestion. Did you have any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, I would just chime in real quick, and I see Dee as well. I apologize, Dee. But just to say it another way, that guarantee amount is about $3 million, which is 85% of the total loans that we could guarantee against. So the total loan amount will be larger than our guarantee amount, which is $3 million. So I don't have that math handy, but maybe $3.5 million in total loans possible with an 85% guarantee against it. So just wanted to make sure everyone had that, in particular, Hunter, since I know this is your first meeting.
Thank you. Dee?
Okay, thank you for recognizing me. I guess goes back to just, I'm kind of at a disadvantage visually here with what I've got going on, and but appreciate if we could get these documents ahead of the meeting so that we can really look at them and peruse them and just be more responsible and responsive board members, if you will. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. Always appreciated. But yes, if we can get that distributed post meeting, that would be helpful. And then just one last little detail, Tim, to add, since we're talking through how the numbers work together. Something that is very basic, but I kind of had to recently have a little light bulb moment. It was, obviously as the loans are made, it's the full principal amount, and then what we have, the amount of our guarantee. But as those loans get repaid back, some of those numbers change, quarter to quarter as the loans get repaid back. And so if we don't have any defaults, then ideally the what will happen over time, even though as we're lending out, the loans are getting repaid, is that amount that's lendable should still be at a positive level. So again, very basic, but something I had to to remind myself of recently. Okay, awesome. So let's see. Oh, Dee, you had another comment?
I didn't, one moment. I'm sorry. I neglected to also ask, does that chart reflect how many of those loans are in like a state of suspension for principal and interest payments? Because generally the policy is to give them, I guess, a chance to accumulate some cash flow or acclimate or whatever. Does it reflect that? How many of them are in a stage of just 6 months of moratorium or whatever, and the amounts?
It includes any of the loans that are delinquent more than 30 days. It does not reflect, some loans will have an interest only period where they're making interest only payments for 3 months, 6 months. It can vary depending on the type of project, or in some cases, there could be even an initial kind of 3 months of no payments, so that's not reflected in here, and that can vary from, depending on the specific loans there, but it does reflect the the performance of the portfolio that's supported by the Mountain Community Capital Fund. And at the moment, we've got 34 active loans, and two of those are delinquent more than 30 days at the moment. Both to the same entity.
Does that answer your question, Pete?
I guess, I mean, I'm not asking about the delinquencies. I already know what those are. They haven't changed. I guess I'm just trying to look at the overall performance. And I guess if you've enacted a moratorium on receipt of principal and interest or anything at all, I'm just interested too in what stages these loans are. And generally it will be the newer loans, is that right? And
yes. So for a lot of the newer loans, there'll be an interest only period, as they take the loans, put their project to work and build up the cash flow to really be able to, start fully repaying on the loan. So there can be that, that window of there to give them some flexibility. That's pretty, pretty standard. So those phases are not, we'll call the interest only phase, and then it goes into kind of a full, amortized principal and interest repayment phase after that for the balance of the loan. Those are, set at the, they're part of the loan agreement, so when people are performing, according to the loan agreement, those are still current. Then there could be other situations where someone runs into, they've had a big contract fall through or something, and the real cash flow shortage, and we'll have to go through and do a modification or a restructure, and that's kind of a separate, thing that occasionally comes up as well, over the course of the life of the loan. And we try to do, we're a small business lender that focuses on folks that aren't bankable, so we try to be flexible, knowing that folks are going to hit bumps in the road along the way.
I apologize for that clock chiming. I'm sorry. I have another question and then I'll cease. Those two loans that are in default, are those both refinances? I think I've asked and I kind of already knew the answer to the question. And I'm looking at it from an actuarial standpoint. Were both of those refinances of existing debt?
One of them did include, as part of the loan purpose, a part of the loan was a refinance of existing debt. That was actually mostly just because of a timing issue in that we were expecting that to go in the Mountain Community Capital Fund. There was some delays in getting the fund open, so we ended up funding the loan a few weeks, at a smaller amount before, and then once the fund got fully open, we finished up the project. So it was always intended to be in NCCF from the beginning, but there was a small amount of that was refinanced, and the second one was just new loan capital, so no refinance in the second round of funding.
Okay, so I guess to be more specific, one was funded to supplant funding that was made before the MCCF funds could come in. I guess I'm just looking at it, trying to be more just specific about what did happen, and I'm pretty analytical about what did happen.
Yep.
Are we looking, both really are refinances of existing debt, is that right?
One of them was, yeah.
And the other was what? Refresh me.
The second one was we increased they had a new opportunity. We gave them new capital, so it was 100% new capital, no refinance there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think in programs like this, I don't think we have this in our documents. It might be a good thing to consider. But like in typical SBA guarantee programs or other loan credit enhancement programs, they'll have a provision that participating lenders will not enroll any loans in the program solely for the benefit of getting the additional credit enhancement. So we wouldn't take a loan that's not performing or whatever and move it into the facility just to get that. It's, we only be doing it, in those opportunities where it's to the borrower, it's helping the borrower make the next step. And there could be some refinance of an existing amount, but it's helping as that business grows. So I think that might be something for us to look at. We've got some model language around that just to make sure that's clear that any participating lenders would not be using the facility in that manner.
Thank you for your thorough responses there, Matt. And I appreciate your questions, Dee, and the due diligence that you offer this committee and these reports. So I think we definitely welcome those. And I certainly have learned a good amount just from Matt's comments just now. So if there are no other comments or questions from these follow-up items to last month's meeting, we can proceed forth and have Matt share again on, well, actually, yeah, so that I don't think we touched on your part of it yet, Matt, right? I know you've,
right.
See, oh, Rachel, yeah.
I thought I might tee you up, Matt, because I was responsible for leaving off this topic at the last meeting. So essentially, just for, I liked, Maui, the way you're describing having this kind of light bulb moment or aha moment. We know how the basic fund works, and we've just reminded ourselves of the funds that sit and are available to be used as guarantee. When we got the additional grant funds not long ago from Dogwood Health Trust, that guarantee amount increased. Once Karen and others at Self-Help who hold the fund negotiated the grant agreement, that fund increased by $450,000, the size of the grant, all at once. I had been thinking that when Buncombe County government and City of Asheville also made increases to Mountain Community Capital Fund through our ARPA dollars, that the same thing would happen. And it's not that simple, because these federal dollars have to be expended, fully spent, within a certain time frame. And so using the federal dollars that then have that timeline to serve as the guarantee funds actually doesn't allow us to make that expenditure. So we leaned heavily on the creativity and want to just express gratitude to the Mountain BizWorks team and Self-Help folks for helping us strategize about how to still have those funds accomplish the goals that are intended, while also complying with the requirements that come along with those federal dollars. And I stopped short last meeting of explaining it myself, because it's sort of it's on the edge of my ability to expertly convey. So I'm glad that you're here, Matt, to do that.
Thanks, Rachel, very much for that setup. So exactly as Rachel was saying, so we've received the Buncombe County ARPA awards. That one's under contract. And then the city also made an additional matching commitment to the overall program growth, which is terrific. We just had our pre-contract meeting with the city this week, and understand we'll actually see the contract in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have all that put together. So we'll have both of those in hand and ready to move forward. But both are going to work the same way, where the Mountain BizWorks is receiving the ARPA funds, and then as we make MCCF eligible loans, say there's a $10,000 loan, just for easy math, that we approve, that's MCCF eligible and gets enrolled in the MCCF program. At the time of loan closing, we will, in addition to funding the loan, we will also fund the collateral support piece to MCCF. We'll expense that to MCCF as a permanent expense to the fund that will allow it to be enrolled in the fund. So essentially, as we make those eligible loans, we will be incurring those expenses and sending the guarantee portion to the NCC, well, to self-help, and we'll, along with the 1% guarantee fee, as well. So that's how those funds will draw down, and there'll be two pots. There'll be a Buncombe County segment, and then there'll be a City of Asheville segment. We're going to be hoping, the plan will be to deploy both of those as quickly as we can, and kind of draw them down in kind of a similar way. We'll probably prioritize projects that are in Asheville towards the Asheville funds, and ones that are outside of Asheville but in the county to the county funds. But I know they're all eligible as long as they're in Buncombe County. The amounts, yes, we do. So from the county, we have 1.15 million in support for NCCF, and then 1 million in the city contract. We're awaiting that final contract there. And those are listed on that table report as well, that Yaslin shared earlier. So that's, I think it's important. I want to stress that how the fund operates, that there's no change to how the funds, what loans get approved, and any of those sorts of things. That all happened the exact same way. It's just once those loans are approved and then closed, at the time of closing or funding the loans is when we'll disperse the funds, the guarantee portion of the funds to NCCF, and then they'll be there in perpetuity, to revolve and be there for future use.
Thank you, Matt. I do have a couple of follow-up questions. So it sounds like, again, some creative sort of accounting that's happening there, which is, great. Thank you for stepping up to help facilitate that. My question is that since we've come up with that flow, that structure, are we not under sort of the federal timeline anymore on, like using down those funds, like that distributed kind of time, like how much time do we have essentially?
Great question. We are still under the ARPA timeline. So funds have to be fully expended or committed by the end of 2026. So that's the time horizon to spend both the Buncombe County and the City of Asheville awards. So roughly 3 years. We hope to do it a little quicker than that.
Yeah, so the end result is instead of seeing it all at once, like we did with Dogwood Health Trust, we see it over time.
Yeah, because the federal regs are very clear, like, that we've got to show those expenditures as the impacts being happened as we're funding the loans. We couldn't just do it one time. That's what we hope to do it first, and then once the guidelines came out, we figured we had to restructure it, and so that this is the structure that ensures we stay compliant with the federal guidance on this.
And just in the very unlikely chance that we don't expend all of those by 2026, what happens?
Any unspent amounts go back to the city county, and then probably back to the Fed, to the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember the exact mechanics around that, but that's generally probably how that would work.
Got it.
So we have a good incentive to try to get these funds deployed, committed, and benefiting the community.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we have about 3 years, given that we're almost to the end of 2022, I think it was still over 2 million that was left to be deployed, if I remember correctly from that spreadsheet. A little bit over 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still have the full. This new money has not been. None of it's really been deployed yet, so we've got that full amount to utilize as we get into the new year. So we're waiting to get the city contract, and then we're hoping to have kind of one agreement that kind of governs all these funds with self-help and with NCCF in place right after that. And so there'll be some. We'll just have to get our legal with. I don't know if it's self-help's legal or Nikki or but figure out who the entity is and just make sure we've got that set up correctly.
Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts for Matt taking time out of his day to join us this morning. Let's see, Tim.
I have an item, and it can wait until later, but I'd like to make sure that, because we've got a few CDFIs on the call, and so I'd like to have kind of a discussion with them before they all go to their next meetings, and we can do that at the very end. But I just wanted to ask Karen, Matt, Anya to just hang out if you can until the end.
Perfect, thank you.
Maui, the
Yes.
other item for Matt was very often, yes, Lean mentions Catalyst Fund during loan guarantee presentations. And so we were hoping that would also be included in the MBW update today.
Mm-hmm.
Just how that works.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Rachel, for that reminder. And that's perfect because I did have a follow-up question, but it's related to that. So Matt, you want to go ahead and, and I think Frank mentioned he has a hard stop at 10:30. Would that be all right, Tim? Because I think you were requesting the CDFIs to stay. So we'll just fill in Frank after he leaves in. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So back to you, Matt.
So the Multicultural Catalyst Fund is a specific loan product that we have here that was really created to kind of maximize the benefit of the Mountain Community Capital Fund. So the Mountain Community Capital Fund is there to meet some specific capital gaps around low income and entrepreneurs of color in our community that often have less collateral and personal ability to put funds into a business, and so might struggle to get the amount of capital that they need. And so, we did. I think part of our commitment to these funds is not just to use them for kind of the same old stuff, but really to use it to expand the credit box, use it to expand access to the bio capital needed to start and grow small businesses. So we established one of our products doing that is the Multicultural Catalyst Fund, or Catalyst Fund for short, which is specifically aimed on addressing a lot of the barriers that very low income and entrepreneurs of color typically face around capital access. We've got if you go to our website under the Get Funding section of the site, there's a page that really outlines all the Catalyst details. So I'd point you there for kind of the full information, and there's a nice video on there as well that gives a little background on it. But in general, these are ones that allow us to be more flexible around collateral requirements. There's no minimum credit score. There's a number of flexibilities. There's that, as we talked about earlier, most of the loans will have 3 to 6 months of interest only, so a patient period to allow them to build up a very affordable interest rate. So right now those are at 5% fixed interest. So very, very accessible, and we think it's a great, very founder friendly. And so and it comes with integrated technical assistance and other things as well, just to help those borrowers have the resources they need to really find success. So I mean that's the kind of overall program, and we it's really that's where actually a lot of almost all of the loans that we've enrolled in Mountain Community Capital Fund have come through that program. So it started with a maximum loan size of $50,000. We've increased that to $100,000. And moving into the next years, we've got some other things in the pipeline that there may be some kind of other products that also help meet some specific needs in the community that are kind of like Catalyst.
Thank you, Matt. That's a great overview of the other MCCF. I was just thinking the initials are so much ours.
Oh yeah. Internally, Multicultural Catalyst Fund is MCF and Mountain Community Capital Fund's MCCF. So just to keep things nice and easy.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, again, kind of wraps all this together. Given that we're under this sort of 3-year timeline with this large amount of funding, and you already having that MCF and potentially have some other programs in the pipeline, what are you all doing on the Mountain BizWorks front? And then what can we do on our end to sort of get the word out and not only make the impact that we want to make, but ensure that those funds are deployed within the 3 years?
That's great. Yeah, great question. We're seeing, very strong loan demand through this and growing. And I think, we want to build on that momentum, continue to share the positive stories that are coming out of this, which, helps, more people realize that this resource is available and how to use it would be fantastic. And I think we could come close to fully utilizing, the additional funds just with our current product, but we do see several, some other gaps in the community as well, like around owner-occupied commercial real estate is one that we're working on some things, which I think could be very impactful for supporting small businesses and wealth creation and a number of things there. And then also we're just at the beginning of, what folks are calling the silver tsunami, where we've got, more than half of our businesses in our region are now owned by people 55 years and older, and that are looking to transition those to new ownership in the next 10 years. And so there's a real opportunity. Financing will play a role in a lot of those transitions, and we see this as a real great opportunity for maintaining those businesses in our community, keeping those jobs, but also, gives opportunities for others to get into business by purchasing a business, which can be a lot lower risk than going through all the, efforts of starting up something from scratch. You can go ahead and purchase something that's already working and breaking even and whatnot. So those are just a couple examples of, I think, additional areas that these new funds could really help unlock for us, which is exciting.
Thank you. And do you foresee or have any ideas at the moment on how us as community members can advocate and get the word out as well?
Yeah, I think around sharing that this, in collaboration on how we can make sure that everyone in our community knows that this is here, that, that could benefit from it. So any thoughts on that? We work hard on that, but y'all all have, fantastic relationships or in lots of different conversations. So guidance on that, as you see other opportunities or hear of other opportunities as well. Like I had a coffee with Nikki, and she was talking about public contracting and procurement. And that's another area where financing can really help. And I think, these funds could help more folks be able to cash flow larger government contracts and things like that. So any of those sorts of things as well, I think would be great and helpful, for ourselves and the other participating lenders, to be able to fully utilize the facility.
And I'll just do a quick shout out to Frank, because he's leading up the city's efforts around a disparity study to look at the city's contracting and procurement. Frank, I don't know if you want to jump in here, but hopefully with the fruition of this disparity study, to really see how the city's dollars are spent, in particular on our businesses of color in our community, to really better understand what barriers that might be faced by people in our community, but also how we can address those. So it's a really great time to kind of knit these activities together and really see how we can help support our local community. So excited about these opportunities that we're working toward, and really wanting to highlight just the opportunity to knit these things together and really work strategically and help lift our community up. So thanks, Matt.
Yep. And one other thing I'll share is we recently went to our national CDFI conference, and we're sharing, and this program is like the envy of so many communities. And there's so many that are going to want to come and study it and see how they can do something similar. So I think it's just a testament to the power of the partnership and the collaboration that's made this possible.
Wow, that is very encouraging to hear. Thank you for that update, Matt and Nikki. I don't always know what's what's happening, all the cool stuff in the pipeline. So that's super exciting. Thank you all. Does anyone else have any thoughts or questions from Matt while he's here with us today? Any additions? No? Awesome. Well, thank you again, Matt, for taking time to help refresh us in some ways, enlighten us on just all the cool things that are happening at Mountain BizWorks and the ways that you're utilizing the MCCF funds, plans that you have for the future. You guys are doing a great job. We really appreciate our partnership with you. So thank you for being here today. Gives me at least just a great sense of confidence that, we are making impact through Mountain BizWorks. So thank you. At this time, let's see, we are coming up on some time. So we do have a few more agenda items. Tim, real quick, are you all right if we also hold off on, I think you had some thought or follow-up question that you wanted to involve the CDFIs, which Matt, we would have to stay on for if Tim wants to address that in a bit, but we do have 2 other agenda items before we get to that. So with that, we will move on to a quick introduction from Hunter, our newest committee member. Welcome, Hunter. I know you came on just a little bit late after our roll call. And so if you can just introduce to us who you are, whether you're a city or county appointee, whether you are a voting member, and then just a little bit of background information on you, that would be appreciated.
Morning, everyone. My name is Hunter Gooseman. I am the executive director of the Education and Research Consortium, another nonprofit here in Asheville. And I am a county appointee to this group. In a former lifetime, I was a banker, so I have some experience there with regards to lending, but also in my present role as executive director. I've been with the ERC for, this is my 18th year with the ERC, and have been involved in technical support and broadband around the region for all of those years. And my role is evolving and growing now, and this opportunity to serve on this board is one of those opportunities for me, not associated with my job per se, but just in my role as a community advocate. Does that support?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
I think I've covered the points. Thank you.
I also want to, since Hunter didn't mention this, which you promised me you would, Hunter, but Hunter is an avid photographer and a waterfaller, which I had never heard of that term until you told me. So he's visited how many waterfalls?
384 in the past 3 years.
Wow. And his office, he'll have to give you all a tour sometime, virtual tour for me. He has some amazing photography that he's done on the walls there. Entered and even maybe won a couple of competitions?
A couple of my pictures have, one has won a competition, and I've received some other very favorable comments and gotten some honorable mentions, but only one has actually won a contest. But I'm very proud of that one. It's actually a sports photo I took of my son over at Buncombe County Sports Park. And it was in the morning when there was a lot of fog on the ground and the sun was burning the fog off, and it just came out to be a pretty neat photo.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm sure we'll get to see more. And once again, welcome to the committee, Hunter. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Awesome. And with that, we will move on. I think I'm hearing some feedback. I don't know if that's me, if you all are hearing the same, but we will move along to see if there are any new loan requests from our participating lenders.
None to present this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. So I think we've gone through all of our agenda items. So if there are no other comments on those, we can turn at this time to you, Tim.
Great. And I will be brief so we can get out of here. But since we have the CDFIs on the call, Tara, Anya, others, and Tara, I think this will be interesting related to the reparations IFA as well. But our team here has been looking at PPP loans. And so this isn't an MCCF topic, but it's related, right? Because it's small business. And I mentioned this briefly with Matt, but we're seeing that loan forgiveness for PPP loans isn't being universally kind of accepted. So there's a lot of lenders that have done a really good job on loan forgiveness. Matt, I think, has forgiven approximately 1,000 loans out of 1,000 loans issued, which is great. However, it seems like there's untapped forgiveness out there. And I don't know if there's actually, this is all publicly available data. I'd be glad to bring our team in to the next meeting if we wanted to talk about it or have it as a sidebar at a different meeting. But I feel like we need to be this group of community leaders that's interested in small business, BIPOC ownership, all of that. We need to figure out a strategy to get the word out to either the individuals or the lenders themselves to forgive some of these loans, because there's thousands that are sitting out there just for Buncombe County. And as you could probably guess and ascertain, there's disparities based on race in the data. So I wanted to throw that out there, offer to bring our team to the next meeting if we wanted to present some data, but really brainstorm it either in this group or outside of this group to figure out how we get to some of those other lenders who may be big, small, and not on this call, to get the word out on forgiveness. So that's my quick nugget. Maui, I'd ask you, do you feel like this is something you want to talk about in a future meeting, or should we break it off into something separate? I'm agreeable either way.
Thank you, Tim. I think you're right that it is not necessarily, at the core function of our committee, but given that it's kind of the same constituency that we are serving, that it's definitely worth it for us here to be aware of, especially, again, like me, I'm not in the day in, day out of the data. And so I think even just for an educational moment would be helpful. I'm not sure if we need to do that on our monthly call, that is publicly recorded. I mean, I'm open to it either way, but I don't think that is maybe absolutely necessary, especially if it's just more of a educational context. But I would welcome any other thoughts or suggestions around that.
Thank you, Tim, for bringing up this issue. And I don't want to give you a work assignment, but I know at one point you had organized a group of people working on equity in small business to talk about this, and not this particular PPP issue, but just in general, Black entrepreneurship and other issues, since, we're all working on disparities in small business in the region. And I think at one point we thought, well, maybe Spark Tank is already, convening different small business service providers. But maybe with, reparations happening now, as you brought up, and different, I don't know, maybe it's time to just have another one of those meetings. I don't know if you want to speak to why you did that and maybe why it isn't happening anymore, but maybe, this is one particular issue that we want to bring up to work on together.
I think that's a great idea, Tara. And for those on the group, everyone would be welcome to attend. It was meant to just connect some of our folks in the small business space. There's a lot of good work, and sometimes it's synced and sometimes it's not, and that's okay. So what I'll do, I'm glad to get something on the calendar. And Matt, I see your hand is up. Matt, chime in before I commit myself to another meeting.
I just want to say thanks for raising this topic, Tim. I think it's really important, and we, at BizWorks, I think we've had, our team here has done a great job on this front. Like you mentioned, we did 1,024 PPP loans, and 1,020 of those have been forgiven thus far, and the other 4 are just, we're trying to get the information to help those folks get forgiven. So I think they will too. we'd be happy to, sign on if there was some sort of, letter to those other lenders, around like, hey, this is an issue that's concerning to us. PPP lenders had two, this might be getting too much in the weeds, but had two kind of pathways to process forgiveness. They could either do it themselves, like work with their borrowers, help their borrowers navigate the forgiveness process, or they could essentially outsource everything to the SBA and just send the SBA portal information directly to their borrowers. We elected to do the former one, to provide the additional technical assistance to our folks to help them navigate the process. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the ones that are having issues, because we've heard this has been kind of complex and confusing, if they went direct to the portal, didn't really know what they had to put in there, and didn't have folks kind of reminding them about the deadlines and those sorts of things. So if we could help provide any guidance or technical assistance to some of the other lenders, we'd be happy to help in that way.
Thank you, Matt. Karen, I see your hand up.
Yeah, we also did a lot of PPP loans, about 2,800, and same experience. I think, we've had other borrowers come to us who used other lenders to help them with forgiveness, but there's only so much that we can do with that, depending upon the lender. And so I think that we need to be realistic. I mean, as we talk about this, about like what outreach we could possibly do. And the other piece is that we had a third of our borrowers who just never even responded to us. Like Matt, we also went the former route and worked directly with our borrowers to help them through the process. And despite like lots of different outreach, emails, phone calls, letters, it took a ton of work just to get a third of our borrowers to just respond. And sometimes it took finally the letter saying, you're going to have to repay this. It's and then they responded. So, I think it's probably a mix of, definitely there are lenders out there who are not working with the borrowers. But I think just it'll take a lot of effort. And if there are TA providers, especially, who are maybe already working with these borrowers who can help, or trusted accountants we found have really helped, if we can reach out to those who are working with the borrowers, that, just other ideas in terms of who the borrowers may be responsive to.
Thanks for that, y'all. So what I'll do, I'll see if I can schedule something. Maybe we can get it in December or early January to discuss, and we'll see what's possible. And then Maui, I'm glad to bring our folks to provide a summary, once we're done, just so everyone can see kind of what the data we're dealing with. I think it's important context for this committee as we move forward. So
I agree. Thank you, Tim. I also just wanted to mention that what I would be interested to see is if some of those barriers that you see from your studies, if they may also be some potential barriers that would prevent folks from accessing MCCF funds. Like, is it technical assistance? Is that a main, like just gathering documents, following through with getting everything in order? Like, I'd be really interested to see what kind of the common threads are that not only helps on that front, but perhaps help us to be more effective in reaching folks, again, back to our 3-year timeline. Because sometimes maybe people know that there's forgiveness, they know that there's MCF funds, but what is that barrier to get them to actually take advantage of these programs? Any other thoughts? Vanya, I see your camera come on, and I don't know if we have formally met before, but I mean, if you have a few minutes, I would love for you to just do a quick introduction, and then if you have any thoughts on this front, we would welcome that as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was in a previous meeting. My name is Vanya, and I work for WWBC as a business consultant. I provide technical assistance mainly to Hispanic community, and I am very happy to be here and glad to collaborate in any way possible and provide any information. I am very new in the position. I started on October, and I am still getting familiar with all the processes and everything. But yeah, I'm gonna be here every month and yeah, and as I said, happy to collaborate. Anyway.
Thank you so much. I know Tim just dropped off, but would you be interested in being a part of the meeting that he is organizing, just to kind of have some further dialogue around this topic?
Yes, of course. Yes, definitely. Yes, Maui. Thank you for asking.
I'll let him know. Thank you. It's great to see you as well. So glad to have you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. At this time, we will leave room for public comment. Francia, let us know if there's anyone waiting.
We do not have any public comments at this time.
Great. Thank you. So I think we've gone through all our agenda items, everybody. I thank you all for your participation, for your engagement. I know it's a busy time of year, but we all made time out of our day to be here. So I'm grateful for that. I just wish everybody a very happy holiday season, and look forward to collaborating some more together in the new year.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.